Good evening, Frankmeister. How's it going? Been a while since I've seen everybody. Want to let everybody know that Kristin's not going to be able to make it tonight. She's got the flu of some sort. She called me about an hour and a half ago to let me know she wasn't going to be able to make it. But Randy Gravitt is going to be here with us. I thought it would be good for him to be with us on panel tonight because of the fact is he's been on this case from day one, and we can basically do like a little rundown of how things have gone from day one all the way to today. What's going on, Randy?
Oh, not much. Not much. Yeah, there's a lot of cold going around.
Oh, yeah. Flu and all of that stuff's going around right now. Let's give a shout out to the people in the chat. Good to see everybody. CJK, Roxy, Victoria, Mustang, Piper's Dream. All right. John France. Glow. Dululu, what's going on? Linda Harder, Brian Emery. Yeah, but the problem was, Brian, with the Fox 59 situation is after they posted it up on YouTube where comments are allowed on the replay, they were very negative and finger pointing at the family, accusing them of this, accusing them of that. And I think a lot of us are just fed up with all the family bashing and blaming. So, like I said, I have contacts at quite a few of the stations, and I called my contact at Fox 59 and asked if she would please shut the comments off on the video on YouTube, and she obliged me. So no more negative talk on the 59. They can go to channel 13 all they want because I really don't deal with them that much. So, Mr. Ron Logan, good to see you. Miranda Lee with the flex of 11-month member. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me, Miranda. Gibbo, what's going on, buddy? Melissa Wildcard, Miss V. Marie's in the house. Joe Newman. Junior, what's going on? Man, your name's been coming up a lot there, Mr. Ron Logan. Miss LA's in the house. Good to see you. Laura, well, you're going by your real name now? Okay, good.
Hey, Laura. Hey, everyone.
Randy's sick too, guys, so he's hanging in there with me tonight. Well, like I said, today's the 8th year anniversary of that dreadful day when the girls were kidnapped and unalived, February 13th, 2017. And I figured, well, why don't we just go back and have a talk about from back in the early days on how things were from your perspective, because you've been on this case for day one.
Yeah.
Just like Kristin, even though she's not wet boots on the ground, she was heavily involved in this case from day one. So I figured we'd have at least one or two people on tonight. We could discuss a little bit of things like that.
Thank you, Marie. So,
let's get started. Honestly, what was you doing on that dreadful day?
On that day, I was helping my landlord. We had a plumbing problem next door to my neighbor. So I was here helping him while he was working. And then once I got done, I went over to my sister-in-law's house, and the news came on and says 2 girls are missing on the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking on Facebook, reading everything on Facebook, what's going on. And I had it on there. Anybody know where the girls were on the Facebook page? So we were watching everything. They had called out volunteers to start helping through the night. Of course, the next day on the 14th, they found the girls.
Was you involved with any of the search on the 13th?
No. I was not involved in the search at all because I went over there and Anna was at the fire station with all the names, and she says, "We don't need help anymore. The girls were found."
Right.
So it's like, okay. So I went back home. Then after that, 2 weeks, the police were out there from the Monon High Bridge to where the girls were found. They were looking for clues everywhere for 2 weeks. And then when they said anybody can go back out there on the trail, so that's when I start going out there filming, showing people of the trail, where start and end from. I parked before that closed off a park where the Mears parking area was, how they were. And you can't park too much on the road because there's hardly no room to drive 2 cars down a road where people are parking at first.
Oh, you're talking about down 300?
Yeah.
Right there at the Mears gate?
Yeah.
Well, didn't they have the parking lot right next to it, though, at one point?
There was no parking lot. They just parked the side of the road.
Oh, okay.
So that's what they did. They parked the side of the road, and the ones who can park right where the fence, the gate is now, you could park 2 cars there. There were some people parked there, and then you walk from there where the girls got dropped off. So then after that, I started parking at the Freeman Bridge, start walking towards the bridge, and show different people between the north and the bridge. Since I didn't want to walk on that bridge, how the structure was weak in places on those timbers. So did filming there, cut through the Mears property to go to the cemetery.
Let me put a halt to you for real quick. Hey, Greeno, if you want to come up, man, here is let me put the link in here. Give me a second. I have the link at the very top pinned. There you are, Greeno. If you want to come up and join us, you can. All right, go ahead, Randy.
So start filming, showing where could cut across to the cemetery, where I found the tree stand that he could have sat up there and watched from there to the bridge. You can see everything.
Are you talking about the one closest to the Mears property or the one over on Ron Logan's property?
No, the Mears property.
Okay.
That one's closer to, you can see more on the bridge.
Right.
From there. So when I filmed, you can be able to see all the bridge. You wouldn't be able to know he was there or not. So that would be another hint that he could have sat there and watched girls, but found out it's a different story now. How people saw him already. He didn't hide anywhere.
Yeah, see, that brings me to one of them things where another creator is claiming that Abby's photo was photoshopped onto the bridge. And she said, well, where's he at on the bridge then? I said, you got to think about this for a minute, girl. I said, the photo of Abby was taken at the second platform, which is only about 150 feet from the north end of the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it takes you 4 to 5 minutes to get across that bridge. And that was at, what, 2:07?
Yeah.
6 minutes later, they're being abducted. Right in the time frame again. See, he didn't come. I think he was watching them taking photos and stuff. That's why he stayed out of the area where he wasn't caught on.
Well, because where the barrier was, he was past that farther back.
Yeah.
Because where I tell people where he was standing at, he was watching to make sure nobody's coming. But you can see the girls. You've been able to see Libby holding her phone in her hand because there was one point Anthony, me, and Rebecca, who passed away of a heart attack, me and Becca stand on the north end of the bridge where the barricade is in my photo here.
Right.
And Anthony was standing in the middle of the bridge. We could see Anthony doing with his phone.
Right.
So, and when people said I can't, what was that girl who was there before she left? Saw him on the bridge.
Betsy Blair.
Okay, yeah, Betsy was, if she was standing where the barricade is, you can still see his whole face.
Right.
So basically, if he's on the first platform, you can see him. There's no way you can't.
And mind you, everybody, if you don't know the dimensions of this bridge, it's 863 feet long, it's 11 feet wide, and it's 63 feet up in the air. So imagine only about 150 feet from the edge of the bridge itself. The dude was smart enough to he was watching them from an area, taking pictures. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
And he stayed away to where he wasn't picked up on that camera. And then when they turned and walked toward the south end, we don't know. There was no other pictures taken as far as we know.
Yeah, because all Libby took Abby, and then he first photo is the south end of the bridge. There was no one standing on the south end of the bridge.
Nope.
And then where her camera couldn't see where the bridge guy was standing at, okay? But she knew, and Abby knew he was back there. The human eyes can see farther than that. So if you stand on the north end of the bridge, you can still see the south end of the bridge because the leaves were all off the trees. You can see anything going on the south end of the bridge. And when he kidnapped the girls, the one thing that Cody told me that when at the one walk we had, Becky and everybody, he said Libby don't walk down the hills. She slide down the hills. So there was a dirt spot, and he said that was the dirt spot that Libby slide down the hill to get to the bottom.
Well, I saw one picture of right there at the south end, the first hill.
Yeah.
I saw the picture where it looked like somebody had slid down the hill.
Yep, that was Libby because the dark sliding down the hill.
Because during the trial, one of the deputies that was called out there for the missing girls, he came up 625, which is the private drive.
Yeah.
To Brad Weber. And he said when he got to the south end of the bridge off the private drive, you could see that somebody had slid down the hill right there next to the bridge.
Yeah.
And then he said this at trial too.
So you wonder what Richard Allen, did he walk down? Did he slide down? He would have slipped and fell on those leaves.
Well, I mean, when I first got into this case, it was probably the early to mid fall of 2021. And the first thing I did, I started scouring the crime scene with photos.
Yeah.
Okay. And maps and stuff like that. And I said, man, somebody with some military experience had to have done this crime. And sure enough, that Richard Allen was in the National Guard, so there's the military experience. You learn all that stuff.
Well, that's why I said at the beginning of this case, I said it had been a military person in order to do what he done to those girls. It would have been a military person to get what he wanted to do. But when I don't get when he was afraid of hearing Brad Weber coming down the driveway. And
I'm kind of lost on that situation too, because I still feel like that he got spooked when he was already across the creek.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the whole situation.
Because if he had the girls down below, Brad Weber wouldn't be able to saw him with the girls.
I mean, if he was down below, he wouldn't be able to see the van.
Yeah, there's no way because
the angle of that hill.
You're right.
So
if he could have raped those girls right there on his property and killed them right there, but I think he was scared about something else. I don't think it had nothing to do with Brad Weber showing up. I think he wanted to make sure nobody else would saw him, knowing that there's people coming on the bridge. Maybe that'd be another reason. You can see where the girls were before you cross the creek. You can turn your back. You can see the bridge from where the creek starts.
Yes, you can.
So he
I've been to the crime scene. We've been to the crime scene. You can see the bridge from there, a very small part of it, and that's it.
Yeah, and maybe that's the one reason he got spooked. It's like, oh crap, there's.
Well, you got to remember also, Cheyenne and her girlfriend were up there,
Yeah,
on the bridge in the time frame.
So even you get across the creek over where Ron Logan is, you are better. What he did is kill the girls over there. But yeah, he might got spooked of the people on the bridge because he can see them. But I don't think Brad Weber was the reason he crossed the creek.
I think he had it all planned out where he was going to go.
I think so too. And if he was smart enough, he can walk down from his home and take the old rail line all the way out to 200 without being seen after killing the girls. Now, why would you want to drive over there that you can walk on the old rail line through that wooded area?
Right.
And nobody saw him.
Because we always talked about how Abby was able to get to her house from the south end if she went through the old rail line that used to be there.
Yep. Yeah. He could have killed those girls in that old rail line, and no one would know.
Right. But let me get a statement here. But also, given the weather, the rapid of the creek, there are times where you can't hear anything. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and then when did you start the memorial walk? I mean,
I started the memorial walk. I'm trying to think. I think it was 2019. Or 20,
I think the very first video I ever saw you in was at the presser in 2018.
Yeah,
that was
I was
the
there.
Trailhead.
Yeah, so someone after in between 2018, 2019, it was only two of us starting. It was Radar who came. And then after that, people start coming to the walks and bringing a lot of things. So now since that time, during the walks, we were hoping that the killer would show up or at the walks. We're always saying, did he show up at the walks? We'll always wonder that. People always wonder that. We watched everybody who was dressed, especially that one time it was really cold. We did a walk, and there was a gentleman. We don't know who it was, and he was covered up with a mask and everything, kind of like he would have looked like the killer, but he wasn't. But yeah,
question. Remember, a lot of people were speculating that possibly Richard Allen was in the 2018 presser there at the Trailhead. Can you clarify any of that?
No, he was not there. Richard Allen was not there at the presser at 2018.
Good to see you, Ruckus.
Because one of the state troopers were filming everybody who was out there.
Of course, yeah, that they're going to do that. We know that.
So, and I was standing by Mrs. Muir, standing next to her. But I looked, there was Richard Allen was not there, just all the news people, and there were some people who wanted to put flowers at the bridge. So they showed them how to get there and go around the fence. At that time, the fence was up, so people had to walk around the fence at that time. So Richard Allen did not come to any of those events of pressers at all. And you would think he would go and wondering, okay, what do I need to do next? But when that one walk in the we had in the cold, and one of the ladies said he was working that day at CVS. I said, oh, that's interesting. So we were we were.
Did you ever get to go? Did you ever see him at CVS? Have you ever been into CVS and
No, I've never
witnessed him
been
there?
in. Never in the CVS store. But the strange part was when we went to eat. I had like 4 taps on my shoulders, and people were sitting around me. I asked them, "Did anybody see who's tapping on my shoulders?" And no one, and everybody says, "No, no one's tapping on your shoulders." So the girls were telling me something. It's like, okay, something they knew that were close to the killer. But yeah, I had 4 taps on my right shoulder, and that was kind of strange. And especially on Mother's Day, I was out there on Mother's Day, and I heard the 2 girls laughing and giggling out there. And Lemmy said, "Can you see me?" And it's like, "No," but and then they disappeared. But
I felt the same way the very first time that I was there, and we all went to the crime scene.
yeah,
When we got to the property fence, which was actually knocked down next to the ravine.
Yeah.
Once we got to that area, I felt the presence of the girls.
Yeah.
It was like they were tugging on my shirt, over here, over here.
Mm-hmm.
A
lot of people said they can feel the spirits of Living Abby when they are close to the crime scene.
Well, now that when we had to walk on that Saturday after Richard Allen got arrested,
yeah,
we all went to the crime scene. I didn't feel anything anymore.
Well, I think the girls were waiting that certain time. They know that they caught the real killer, and it was time for them to move on. They stuck around to make sure their case
let everybody know that they're watching everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and then when I start going towards the cemetery, and walk out towards the 300 FBI, and there was a deputy with this FBI, and asked me if I knew anybody out here. And I said, "No, not really. I don't know anybody out here." He asked, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I was trying to trace back if the killer would have cut through the north end of the wooded area to the cemetery." He said, "Oh, okay." I said, "I just was filming." And he when they had that barricade down there, he says, "Well, I don't think I was going to park at where the barricade is. There's no parking." I said, "Well, you're the FBI. You can do whatever you want. Park there if you want to." He said, "All right," because he had red hair and stuff, but he was going door to door in that area asking questions. So
did you personally have to get interviewed by the FBI or Carroll County or ISP? Because there's been a lot of bullshit that's been out there. Oh, Randy was bridge guy, or this and that. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Well, the FBI and the United States Marshal and state police, they said, "Well, a lot of those people are calling in because you're filming," and they said, "Well, it's because of your filming. They think you're the bridge guy." And I'm like, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." And I told him, "Well, I already been talked to." I said, "Don't you guys get updates of the people who you already talked to?" And he said, "No." I was like, "All right." So, yeah, I talked to several FBI, and they asked me, and I told them what I get from my emails. They said, "Send what you got. These people are telling you something, send it to them, and we'll check on the answers." And there was a lot of different things that people send, and especially one. It was one of the people who worked with Ron Logan at the meat packers plant. And she said, "Well, he's got the same jacket." Well, he wears the green jacket. There's no blue jacket. He has no blue jacket, but he wears the green jacket from
every news clip interview that we've ever seen of Ron Logan. Even at the transfer station, he is wearing basically the same outfit.
Yeah. Especially
a greenish blue jacket, a shirt, blue jeans, baggedy blue jeans with his mud boots on, with his pants tucked into the mud boots and wearing a hat.
Yeah. And if that was Ron Logan on that bridge, Ron Logan wears those mud boots because he knows the trail is muddy. He doesn't wear his regular boots like around the house and stuff. He always wears the mud boots and tuck in his pants.
When he's working on his own thing there on his own property, he's got to deal with horses and.
So and then what else? Of course,
let me give a shout. I got to give a shout out real quick. I want to give a shout out to Laura for the $4.99 super chat, and also who is that? Mosaic. Thanks for the $1.99. Appreciate it, guys. All right, Ken, Brandon.
All right, sure. So yeah, it would make sense if it was Ron Logan because the mud boots,
right?
He was tucking in his pants in the mud boots. But it's not Ron Logan on that.
Well, I did some research on Libby's phone, that style of phone, and was asking questions about when you take photos, does it make the person look bigger? And they said it's not necessarily making them look bigger. It depends on the angle that she's taking the pictures at, or the angle of the picture, the size lens the phone has, all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of factors involved.
Well,
but her phone would make Bridge Guy look taller the way she took was
the other thing, video. whatever background she used on her phone.
And then somebody else was questioning me about, well, how come all the photos or that photo of Abby is not in Libby's phone? I said, once again, she took the photo straight through the Snapchat app itself. It'll save to that app, but it's not going to save to your phone.
She sent it to her cloud. So pictures that she took from her phone that day, she sent it to her cloud. She knew that Snapchat photos will be disappeared totally. So she sent that photo to her cloud, and that was on whatever her computer went to her cloud on the computer. Hey, Teddy, how you doing? Hey, Laura, everybody.
What's going on, Teddy? Good to see you, bro. If you want to come up, you can come up, bro. I like listening to you. So he don't pull no punches. Yeah. I like his shit.
Teddy was sitting in front of me at the conference when everything was done. But yeah, and the other thing, I went to explore the cemetery. Nobody thought about the cemetery but me. See if anybody would park down to where McCain's family, their parent. So I parked down the bottom of that hill.
Oh, you're talking about where their gravesite's at?
Yeah. So I parked down the bottom of that hill. I did film, and my car you wouldn't be able to see. I know there's a lot of people who didn't watch my video and wonder, like, okay, so then this is where drug people would come.
It is, because remember the first time it was me, you, Taylor, and the girl from Michigan that actually, when everybody was leaving the crime scene, we walked up the ravine up to the cemetery, and all we saw was trash, busted up old box TVs, old raggedy clothes.
And that's what point when I said the killer would have come through the cemetery. That would have been the fastest way when he got done killing the girls, or go through the ravine. I show people how that he could have gone through the ravine to hide. If the other McCain brother was still there, he would have walked through the ravine. He wouldn't have been able to see. But if he walked out towards the in between where the ravine is, out to the cemetery where the Mears cornfield is, and if he crossed the other cornfield, walked behind the Mears, no one would have saw on 300, because you would have saw Derek, and then would have saw him walking past them, because Derek was out there and Tara was out there waiting for the family.
Well, according to Sarah Carball, she basically passed him right by the cemetery.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty distance down to the gate.
Yeah. Hi, Michelle.
And if he just cuts across that cornfield up behind the Mears property, behind the Harvester store, and came out 300 on the other end of the Harvester store, no camera would have picked him up.
Because he walked back behind the storage unit. So the storage unit it's in the back, and then the Harvest store is in the front where the camera is. So he walked behind the Mears property field and passed behind the storage unit where the Harvest store is, then walked to his car. So he got caught on the camera from the Anderson storage area building right there to get to his car.
But see, he had to have changed clothes or something.
Well, yeah, he had to somewhere. But
I mean, there's only three explanations. He either took the outer layers off and buried them over in that area somewhere, or he possibly had a storage unit there at the Harvester store, or he changed clothes in the old CPS building before he got in his car. Because
it'd be, I think, either of the two ways. There's a wooded behind the storage
right.
unit. He would have buried them there. Somebody said it might be there. His clothes might be there. But if he knew a friend or, like you said, a storage unit in there, he could have changed clothes, and then walk to his car, and then go back and try.
Because as far as we know, from all the information that we've gathered over the last couple of years, there was no DNA, no blood, or anything in that car.
Right.
I mean, that's what the talk has been. We don't know for sure, but because nothing was ever presented except for his car being on video from the Harvester store.
Well, I always said he wear double clothes. I wore double clothes out there and tested out, and he could have wore double clothes. Why the baggy pants? He would probably had a layer of clothes underneath that baggy pants. Change. By knowing that there were no train cars there that day. So, and that was one of the questions I looked and found out there was no train cars. So that would have been another suggestion that he could have dropped his clothes in the train cars, but there was none there. But he made sure no one saw him, but he just can't. No one saw him leaving on the trail, and no one gets that point. Because if people saw him leaving on the trail, you have McCain, you have Cheyenne and her friend, other people would have saw him walking back on the trail, and he did not walk back on the trail, including the girls.
Crash Override says, what are double clothes? He was layered up.
Yeah.
He's had several layers of clothing on.
Yeah. I had two double clothes on. I had the first layer and the second layer underneath my shirt and my pants. So it would be why his pants look so baggy, in order to wear extra clothes underneath. He knew that if he was bloody and stuff, and he walked through the mud on those banks, his shoes would have been muddy from those banks coming out of that creek.
Well, that was because remember they were going around because they found footprints in those mud on the bank.
Yeah.
Remember we went to the pig farm plant to look and see if boots that matched what people working there.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, another thing is, there was one story that I saw on Facebook. The question was, Kathy says, "Where's my new washer at?" And Richard Allen said that, well, it got broke. So if he washed his bloody clothes in that washer and got rid of it, so that would.
I mean, it's the same thing as asking, well, where's your phone at that you had that day when we did the search? You had all these other phones date back to the mid to early 90s, but you don't have this one particular phone.
Yeah, where's that phone at? What happened to it? It's like, did you throw it in the creek? Where did you throw it at? That would be the question. Where did he throw that phone? He knew there was things on his phone that he could get caught on. But there's only one way in and one way out of that place, and it's sad that nobody, like I said, Rich Allen would have left on the trail. There's only one way in and out. Anybody would saw Living Abby leaving, but no one saw them leave. And that's the question. That's a sad thing.
I mean, honestly, to me, the way that this case has been handled by the defense and the way that the family's reacting to this whole mess, I mean, especially Kathy, with her being on video during the interrogation, questioning him why you lied to me and told me you didn't tell me you were on the bridge, or, why is your bullet at the crime scene? And then I felt like the defense team got to them to coax them into believing he wasn't involved.
Oh, yeah.
Just by and then again, it makes me wonder if Kathy and his mom really knew anything, because from all what we heard on conversations between his mom and his wife, every time he would admit that he killed him, they would tell him to shut up, or hang up on him, or telling him you're crazy. You did. And I think there's a possibility they could be covering up for something that.
Well, see, the problem is he's a real alcoholic. When you drink and you don't remember what you said, because I was one of the kind of like a driver for the people who want to drink alcohol, take them to different places, and
like an Uber.
Yeah, and they asked Randy, "What did I say?" It's like, well, this is what you said. So if he drinks a real heavy alcohol, somebody would have had to heard him say something about the murder, because alcohol is kind of like a truth serum. Like, what did I say? Or somebody talked about. But yeah, somebody at the bar could have heard him. It's like, well, you're just talking about the girls, but really, you actually killed them? Somebody would have thought, okay, somebody would from that bar would say, hey, yeah, he said this at the bar because he was drunk. But that we don't know if he said it or not, but that would be the easiest question to ask when he's drunk. You get the answers.
Right. And we know that he had we can't say that. Look who's coming to see us. Well, hello there, young lady.
Hey, Laura.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. I won't stay too long. I have 2 questions for Randy.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like I said before, I think I remember when I was first watching this on YouTube, I remember you talking or showing deer blinds, and then I had gone out there like 2 years later, and it was intense summer, deep foliage, and I was looking around like, I wonder if there's deer blinds. But I remember your video where you debunked that. So Can you talk about like the deer blinds out there? What's the hunting like out there?
The hunting out there is usually there depends on where they're hunting at. I think nobody was hunting at that time. The only thing that people were hunting was mushrooms.
Yeah.
That was the only thing they were hunting was mushrooms. There were people coming out with like a ball-sized mushrooms.
So then you're looking, you're glued down, your eyes are glued into the floor. Are these what's the mushrooms called?
The ones that are expensive. If you get a bunch, you could sell them.
I know.
There's Mr. Teddy. Got another one.
Hey, Teddy.
What's going on, Teddy?
But
what's up?
He's got that drink in his hand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like the deer stands. Basically, you could see them, but since he wasn't there in those tree lines, that would have been the only way that, to me, he would have saw the girls. Wouldn't have been seen. But since we know he stayed on the trail and watched the girls, so it would have been easy. He would know who was hunting out there at that time. But
yeah, I just remember. But like I remember, it was a long time ago. But you debunked it, and so then when I went out there, I wasn't too worried about some guy sitting up in the blinds, and then.
Oh.
What?
We lost Laura's mic somehow. Teddy, what's going on?
Hey, Teddy.
Nothing, just listening to all the bullshit today.
Yeah, I woke up this morning and saw the replay of the interview with Mike and Becky on Fox 39.
Yep. Yeah.
I started reading the comments and I said, oh, hell no. So I made my call, dude. I said, please shut the comments off on that. And they granted it to me, and I was thankful for it.
It's sad because you really shouldn't have to do that, but people are disgusting.
Exactly.
That's how it is.
I it just, what irks me about this whole situation is these people. What if it was your grandchild, your child, brother, sister, mom and dad, whoever your next of kin is? How would you feel if people like us came at you and said, "Oh, you're the reason why your child or so and so was murdered"?
Frank, it doesn't matter because all these
that's
people,
what I'm saying.
they don't care. They think it was them, and it doesn't matter. Today, you should be thinking about the girls, and they don't care about the girls at all. They care about their theories and keeping this going because they have nothing else to talk about.
Right. And that's why I haven't been doing any lives, because there's nothing to really talk about. People are like, "Why didn't you do something when the documents come out from Nick?" I said, "Look,
who gives a shit?"
2-3 weeks prior to that, me and Kristin had basically already covered what Nick was going to do. We already knew what he was planning to do.
It's over. It's so over.
Yeah. Well,
why would I do another live?
The thing is, I knew I was pissed off with all the stuff that they were coming out with, but I knew that he was going to come with the facts, and he shut it down. It was stupid. It was stupid. The fact that he even had to show those photos is stupid.
Right. And now everybody's saying, now I'm hearing him say, "Well, that could be luminol."
But that's the thing, though. Even if people were there and saw everything that we saw, it wouldn't make a difference.
Exactly.
You could give them every aspect of that investigation. All they want to do is twist it to support their narrative, because for whatever reason, these people, it doesn't matter if it was him on trial. It doesn't matter if it was Patrick Westfall or Brad Holder. They would do the same exact thing.
Right.
It makes no difference, and it's going to keep happening. So people should just let it go.
Exactly.
Talk about what you know. Talk about what you saw. If you were there, I told everybody I'm ready to make shirts and just tell everyone to go fuck themselves and be like, "I was there. Shut the fuck up. You don't know shit."
Exactly. And I've said that numerous times, Teddy, where, honestly, this is how I feel. If you were not there throughout the testimony of this whole trial, you didn't get to see or experience the exhibits, none of that, you have no business even trying to talk about it.
You don't. And even us. The thing is, we see what they want us to see. And I understand that. The problem is when you have all these people talking about these third-party suspects and all these other people that came up through this 5.5-year investigation, you can pick out any little part of that and turn it into a story if you want.
Right.
If you have something like the defense coming in and saying, "Hey, this guy that they arrested, it's not him." Of course, they have an interest in getting him off. So they're going to pick up. Go ahead, Laura.
Steve Buckley's interview on the murder sheet was pretty amazing because he's like, okay,
I thought so too.
They got everything from our discovery. So they try to use that against them at different times. And like sometimes, okay, but the whole point is, that they definitely did they investigated these people as much as they could down to the wire, and they could not make an
probable
arrest.
Cause. They didn't have any probable cause.
Right. So who's ever saying that these people were not investigated? They absolutely were.
Laura, that's the reason why I say it doesn't make any sense to go against these people, because if you can't see that, if you honestly believe that there's this big conspiracy against it, number one, you have to say why. What is the conspiracy?
Right.
I mean, I look at how I was before I went to trial.
Who has the gain from a conspiracy? That's what you need to ask yourself.
Exactly. And when you think about how many people are involved, there has to be a bigger plan. There has to be something that drives all these people to do this. And at the end of the day, I say this, and people that either weren't at trial or don't know me or don't give a shit, because nobody should listen to me. I'm a nobody, and I always will be. And I'll tell you what I tell you, and if you don't like it, I really could give a fuck less. But you listen to these people speak, and it's not like they're trying to persuade you one way or the other. They're giving you what they know, what they think they know, and that's it. And you do with that what you will. The prosecution was able to take that information And whether you want to say they crafted it into a story that fit their narrative or not, it made 100% more sense than the bullshit that the defense put on. And people don't like to hear that. And I don't care at this point.
Well, they actually didn't even lay it down. They didn't even craft it into a story. They kind of, they definitely didn't. Now that I'm looking at all these things, they did not try to lay down the timeline. Also, hey, Frank, can you take off the crash override? His picture is freaking me out. No offense, crash override.
Oh, okay.
I think it's hot.
But okay, so but also the other thing is that yes, I feel like we were lucky enough to be in there, but even then, even before I was able to be in there some of the days, I came into a realization of like, okay, look at all these different places across Indiana, how far this and wide this has gone, like the scope that it would have to be a cover up. And so also like why, you know, my job is this one thing. I'm not an investigator. I'm not, you know, high up in FBI or whatever. So why am I thinking, like, I've just heard so many things of like some people saying like, well, if once I hear this, once I see bridge guide video for myself, then I'll know. And it's like, but who are we? Who are any of us to say that we'll believe it once we see it? Like we're, you know, one person on, I mean, I have to trust that literally all the investigators, that's their job. That's the FBI. That's ISP. That's what they do. You know, like, I guess at some point I have to realize like, I'm not that important that they have to convince me per se.
Right.
The only people they have to convince is the 12 people in the box.
Yeah.
That's
And they did.
it. Exactly.
They took their time.
Supposedly they influenced them in some way. Somebody talked to them, you know.
Yeah,
It's
I've
got to
heard
be that.
too. Right. You know, I'm just, like I said, you know, I've been to Delphi so many times. I've been to the crime scene. I've examined the crime scene, examined the area in the crime scene. Just for being in the military, that's what we do. You know, looking at maps and all the elevations and all that stuff. And I knew from the get-go, I said, somebody with some military experience has done this crime.
Yeah.
Just by the landscape of this place. You know.
And then, well, the defense also wants to like double-edged sword it, twist it in both ways. So this is a question for both Frank and Randy. Okay, so they want to say that like, oh my gosh, there were so many searchers. There's no way they did not find the bodies. But at the same time, they were also asking these questions about coyotes and scavengers. And it's like, okay, do they not know that? Look, yeah, we have coyotes in Indiana, but like that's not how
there was no coyotes that night, or
no,
right?
Like
people didn't go across the creek and look on Ron Logan's.
No, they didn't. Right, but just the same as they wanted to like. I mean, coyotes and scavengers or whatever. And what did they say? Like, I mean, they're not going to come scavenge the bodies overnight or do anything to them when there are searchers in and around the area. Like, that's just not how the Indiana wildlife works.
The other thing is how the hill structure on Ron Logan's property. You cannot take bodies down. You almost have to roll the bodies down to the bottom of his
property.
Right.
The fact that anybody thinks they were brought back there. I mean, without thinking about how that landscape is, makes zero sense.
Exactly.
But then when you think about all the people that were there, you know, the official search ended at 2 a.m. and you still had people out there.
Yeah.
What reason? What reason? Realistically, I understand I'm biased and I understand people on the other side are biased. But tell me what reason you can think of, whether you think it's Ron Logan or you think it's the Odinist, what possible reason could you think that somebody would bring the bodies back to the place that they know everyone in town is looking? It's not a big town.
No, it's not a big town. And there's no way they wouldn't brought it back. If they would, wherever they were, if it was to bring back, they would bury them someplace else.
Right.
I'll give you the best defense. Somebody on the defense side, the best reason I've heard as to why they did that, and you guys can debunk it from here because this is ridiculous. So okay, so they said, okay, well they brought them back there because, and then they turned on the phone because they wanted to signal that, hey, it's time to come see it and time to come see the message that they left.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord.
I mean,
Okay.
So the problem is the two things.
do that in another field.
Let's go, Randy. Let's go, Randy. I want to hear it.
Two things. Okay, if they brought the body back, they would have to park in the cemetery and go through the fence and drag those bodies to where the hill goes down to Ron Logan's bank.
And he ain't carrying two bodies by himself.
No.
Remember that. He's going to have to do one by one.
Three. They would have three.
He had his horse bring him down.
I know, or the masked Odin, or all the masked Odin people, or even if it was the horses, it'd be like a deer sled. There's no evidence of anything like that.
No. Because there's a lock on that gate. There's so they would have to throw the bodies over the gate because the gate is locked in the cemetery. So
hold on. Somebody's wanting to come up. I got to send them the link. Give me a second.
I hope it's somebody with a contrary opinion.
Well, there's
you'll love this person.
I can't wait.
There's just definitely another logical way to accomplish that same thing. Like there's other fields that you could go put them in and turn the phone on.
This is why the FBI had to get ropes down there to bring them up top of the hill because they couldn't make the bodies up the hill. Get ropes down there to bring them up the top of the hill because
Who's got the echo?
That was me. Sorry,
God
guys.
Damn it, Frank.
Good. So everybody should give a shout out to Fig Solves.
Hey, Fig.
But I have a big problem with the FBI. That's where my problem is when it comes to this case. Because they're the ones that fucked it up from the get-go. Honestly, you have to look at the FBI because they were tunnel vision on Ron Logan the whole time.
Yeah.
Their primary suspect from day one was Ron Logan. We all have to admit that. Why would Nicole Robinson put false coordinates on the PCA from Ron Logan? Why would she put the wrong time of day that the girls arrived at the trails? Why would she say there was no evidence of the girls being murdered at the crime scene? They were brought back there.
Did she say that? I don't remember that in Nicole Robinson's PCA, that they weren't murdered there.
She said that there was no struggle. She was basically implicating. I take that back. She was implicating that they were brought back to the crime scene because there was no blood or anything there.
I guess how you interpret that. I just remember from her PCA, they all kind of stretched the truth when it came to the exact location, and I think that was on design. I mean, I don't think they wanted people right at that actual crime scene for whatever reason.
Right.
But at the same time, there's no way around after the testimony, Pat Cicero's testimony, there's no way around. They were killed right there.
Yeah.
So you not only do you have to go with the belief that they were brought back, but then they were killed and there was some type of a struggle at that crime scene while people were out searching for these girls. That makes zero sense to me as a non-investigator or detective, whatever you want to say. You have to be realistic. The simplest explanation is typically what the truth is. Not all the time, but in this case, when you have a really ballsy move like abducting not one, but two girls in the middle of a day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm overhearing the word pristine, Teddy, because you've seen when you say about
pristine. Listen, it's not
pristine.
Well, let me ask you this, Laura. Tell me what was pristine, because I already know what you're gonna say, but
I could the Frank's memorandum. It says that in the Franks in
I don't want to hear about that bullshit.
Yeah, that's but don't look at any of the footnotes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? None of the footnotes. Don't ever look at them. But so then it was pristine, and so then where was blood?
It wasn't pristine.
Exactly. Thank you. So we need to debunk that.
So
it was not. Back to my point though, with the FBI, why would they say that kind of stuff when we actually saw the photos?
Frank, do you have Nicole Robinson's PCA up? Because
no, I'd have to dig. You wouldn't believe the thousands of
Well, I think because I think with hers, it's been a while since I read it, but I think if we're gonna quote her PCA, like I want to reread it. I can't really comment on her PCA too much. It's been a long time since the Ron Logan search, but
you know,
Well,
and it made me feel like, she is just really targeting Ron Logan.
I think the FBI and really all the people involved, this is one of the big things about this case that
Here comes Shorty, guys.
oh boy.
There's Shorty. What's going on, Jinx?
Hi,
Oh God.
Oh,
There she is. What's up, Boo?
I think that FBI lady was so convinced of Ron Logan because it was on his property of those two girls, and I think that's what she just kept looking at Ron Logan, all the weapons and stuff he had in his house, because he's not supposed to have weapons because of his probation.
Well, Randy, what about trail cams? Well, one thing
There was no trail cams on that bridge because
correct.
But
because
it was on his
hold
property.
on. Hold on, because go ahead, Teddy. Just said this again. There was a trail cam.
Yeah, and there was big talk about somebody being captured on this trail cam, and the defense brought it up.
Yes.
We only heard about one trail cam. And again, it was something that they made a big deal of. And for whatever reason, it took them a while to get to the point where the prosecution actually addressed that, and they said, we found out that it was a firefighter that was on trail cam. And after a couple of days, it got shut down completely. And no one talked about it again.
There was a lot of trail cams on the Mears property. What I understood by one of the family members says there's trail cams on the Mears property, but the trail cam at the south end always gets broken somehow. I don't know how, but I do have somebody send me a photo that this is what you would be able to see clearly who was on the south side. But there's no trail cam on the south side anymore because it always gets broken. But I understand Brad Weber has several on his property to see who's walking on his property.
Well, one of the things, Teddy, that I think you said this is an investigative strategy. I thought this was brilliant. Is that they oftentimes they will give a different coordinates for where the actual crime scene is, because then other people will go there and they'll put a trail cam at the actual crime scene, and that's how they know that the killer actually knows that he revisits it.
There
was like 3 or 4 of them where the girls were at, because on the walks I had, there's people come back and say, hey, they had trail cams sitting down there watching to see who shows up.
Well, I mean, I really didn't know exactly where they were until I saw the photos, and I didn't know the area. I didn't know how many trail cams that he might have had set up on that side, but it's definitely different from where everybody thought it was. I always thought it was on the side that it was on.
By the ravine?
No, I mean...
Or the bank, the river bank?
All the photos are more to the west, like where the start of the football field is, where you see the crime scene tape. It's more to the east on the opposite side. I mean, the crime scene is literally right up against a thick stand of trees where you really couldn't move freely, whereas the rest of that floodplain is open. There's a lot of really big trees there.
Yeah.
But I didn't even know the orientation that they were in until people, like that first day that me and Frank and all of them were sitting there in court, and we couldn't see a damn thing. And you had all the people from the news drawing the diagrams, and they're like, oh yeah, the creek's here. And I'm like, what? Okay.
I know
well, that completely changes everything.
Yeah, I know exactly. If you stand on Brad Weber's property where the creek starts at, and the trees are over there with a lot of on the ground, yeah, you have to be that close, or have like what I am, like 6'3", be able to see over the area over on the other side where the tape line was.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's trees that you can't see through.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense to me people talk about him knowing the area and whatnot. The thing that makes sense to me is you come off of the bridge and you go straight down the hill, and that sandbar is right there. Like, if you look an aerial view of the map, if you get off the bridge, go down the hill, the sandbar's right there, and they were found right across from that. But where they were found, literally right behind them, is where it starts, that big thicket of trees where you can't walk freely. You can't do anything freely because you have to navigate through the trees.
Okay, here's a good explanation of what Teddy's talking about. There's one photo where Liggett is standing at the bank looking down into the creek. Directly behind Liggett was the crime scene.
So yeah, there's like if you went straight across the creek, there's like a 2-story embankment where you have to go up, right?
Yes.
But also there you can also go to the ravine. But also Jinx, I got footage of you. What was it? Who did you assault at the courthouse?
JLR.
Oh, Noe?
No. Jinx?
Oh, Automata. Automata know better.
JLR.
I think you were assaulted.
Frank, just
Yeah,
play my
Yeah,
video.
like, literally came up and put his camera with his mic in my face, and I was just like, "You're gross." And then he wanted to make a big deal out of it, saying I assaulted him because I held his sign up to get his freaking camera with a mic out of my face. Yeah.
I mean, it was on
Ted,
camera.
hold on. Teddy, did you say something, bud?
Yeah, I was like, just play my video. You'll see exactly where it is, exactly where that stand of trees is.
What's your YouTube name?
I don't know. Click on my name. I
Oh,
don't even remember.
I'll send it to you, Frank. Lord have mercy.
I don't know.
I also have the crime scene on my
right.
video.
Jinx, keep talking. I want to hear more about your assault.
My assault, the alleged, whatever. Anyways, when Automata Know Better tried to put his mic in my face with his little camera, and I held my hot sign up, and I told him how gross he was. Yeah, that's the end of the story there.
Oh,
Anyways, you guys were talking. Wait. You guys were talking about like how like the bodies getting down to the actual crime scene and like how everybody had to traverse. I just want to bring up like how difficult it has been for people, especially after a good rain. FYI, I'm just throwing out some correlation to snow melting here. But think of how hard it was for people to traverse just after a decent rain, versus like snow melting. It's very similar. And how many people were busting their bottoms trying to get down to the crime scene. Frank, I know you witnessed it multiple times. Randy, I know you've witnessed it multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I've witnessed it multiple times. Like, people just slip sliding away. So, if people are trying to say that the bodies were transferred later on, there would definitely be signs.
Oh, yeah. Definitely drag marks, big time drag marks.
Hey,
I mean, not just drag marks, like how many sliding people falling, slipping in the mud, like.
I mean, just taking the trail.
Come on now.
Just taking the trail past on the Mears property down to Logan's property. Once you get to the property line and that torn down fence and all that, it gets real slippery.
It gets real steep.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's what I'm saying.
Then we would have had DNA, right?
For you to see.
Jinx, I'm going to send you a video real quick. I'll show you how steep it was.
Oh, Lord. I'm pretty sure
that we would have had DNA if there was any 1, 2, 3, 4 people bringing them back. There'd be DNA all over the place. So
there would be DNA.
DNA doesn't matter anyways because it doesn't matter who you put in that spot. They brought it. They spent half a day on the DNA. And
wait,
all they told you is that they found unidentified male DNA.
Teddy, statistically speaking, how many cases that actually have DNA involved in them?
Not much.
You're asking the wrong person. I can't give you the numbers.
Well, I want to say it's like less than 15%.
Yeah,
let me get something in real quick. Speaking of DNA, they have solved the Jack the Ripper identity.
As
of
After
when,
37 years.
Yesterday.
Oh wow.
His name is Aaron Kozeminski. To a DNA match of a shawl found at the scene.
Fuck
Yeah, the
that
guy got it from a auction. From this,
Kozaminsk. That sounds like.
Just wanted to let
the
know.
Anthony Shot's name? Kozlowski.
Oh, we're talking about the kid from Alaska.
Oh Lord.
Here goes the conspiracy.
There you go.
Flora.
No. I mean, well, that's very interesting. But Jinx, I'll say that the whole thing about the DNA is like also like outside. Can you really get like how do you get a fingerprint off something if you use tape and all that stuff? Like, I mean, it's a bark on a tree. It's trees and it sticks. And I don't know if I've ever seen.
Well, the DNA fingerprint on the tape will be the sticky part.
Why are we assuming that the tree with the blood on it has any of the
we're not. You don't need the DNA on the tree.
Yeah,
all the blood you knew was Libby's. The DNA that was interesting to me was the DNA that they took. I mean, they took DNA when they were at the crime scene, but they took DNA during the autopsy too. And there were little things.
Yes. Yep.
There were little things throughout the DNA day that really stuck out to me that I don't think people took as not as seriously, but I think in the discussion there was so much of it that things kind of got overlooked. Like one of the things to me that was very interesting was Abby's shoes. The majority DNA profile on Abby's shoes was Libby's, which she didn't put Abby's shoes on because they weren't the right size. So that didn't make any sense. And when you want to talk about, well, there was a lot of blood at the crime scene that was all Libby's. So how did her DNA get on Abby's shoes? Well, there was blood.
I mean, that's self-explanatory. Go ahead with that.
Well, no, but hold on. So there was no blood on Abby's shoes except for on the tongue of one of the shoes. Now let's break it down. The big pool of blood that we know is all Libby's was found to the west of Abby. So if you're looking at them, their head is to the north of you and their feet are to the south of you. This blood pool was to the south. So if you want to talk about blood spatter or anything else, you would expect there would be blood on the soles of those shoes. If anything else. There wasn't any. There wasn't any blood on the sides of the shoes. There was blood on the tongue. So what that says to me was the person that killed Libby then took the shoes. You don't touch the tongue of your shoes unless you're really trying to get a shoe onto somebody.
Right.
So the person that killed her and had blood on his hands or his gloves, whatever, took that shoe and then put it on Abby. There's no reason why another person should be the majority DNA carrier on your shoes. Zero. And that was something that was said really quick that I don't think anybody else picked up on, but it bothered me when I heard it. I go, that makes no sense. So that was just one piece. But then they also said a lot of other things like, yeah, we did the vaginal cervical swab and we couldn't rule out the presence of seminal material. Okay, that doesn't make sense to me because if you found no evidence of penetration.
He did say that the girls were not sexually active too.
Right.
And then when he started saying this about the semen, I was like, hold on, dude.
Well, it wasn't even core. This was Bozanovsky when she was going over the DNA evidence. She said the vaginal cervical swab specifically, she could not rule out the presence of seminal material. Now, to me, I don't know DNA and I don't know serology, so I don't know how they come to that conclusion. But I don't understand if you find no evidence of penetration on a female and they're not sexually active. What does it mean when you say you cannot determine whether it's seminal material or not? Because the only way that gets into a cervical swab is if there's some type of penetration.
Exactly.
So
and you can't tell me you can't determine if it was seminal, because seminal has the most, the semen has the most, fish, you want to call it for us, and the
right,
semen.
right.
And so you can't determine if that's
But
sperm or not.
but that's what I'm saying. I'm ignorant to that fact. I don't work in that industry, so there might be something that they, that's how they talk, and it might be something specific. I don't know, but when she said that, I didn't understand exactly what she meant, and I feel like it just got hidden because most of the evidence that they took out of those boxes, they were swabs. They weren't clothing, they weren't the gun, they weren't the bullet, they were swabs. So what did the swabs tell us? The breast swabs, they had unidentified male DNA. She explained to us how the external genital swabs, you can't necessarily say that the male DNA you find on them is of the perpetrator, because if you
Yeah.
live in a household with a
Right.
male and
Right.
you wash your laundry, so you would think the underwear, number one, it might have male DNA that's not related to the perpetrator. But with the bra, you don't think about it as close, especially for a woman that's not fully developed. You don't think about it as close as a pair of underwear are going to be. So to me, I thought, well, it's got to be the perpetrator. They took that off at the crime scene or at the autopsy. Those are the things that you would need clarification on, but unless you're somebody that does this every day of your life and has that in-depth knowledge, you can't really comment on it.
Right.
Well, that's
But
a really good point. I never caught on to any of that entire side because I did not even know half of that existed. But I guess it's at that point we've kind of realized, hey, we're not DNA specialists. We're not
no,
crime scene spatter experts. But like what? But yeah, I've heard one thing brought up time and time again. And it has to do with the seminal fluid, and it didn't have a Y chromosome. I had no idea that there's way more to talk about, right? Like,
I didn't know either. I mean, I'm just repeating what I heard. Like,
I
well, but
mean,
not that there's
like
more.
you guys said, we're not DNA experts. All we know is from what we've researched and what we've heard from these experts.
Mm-hmm.
And
Look,
what we've been told throughout the years, that there was only like 7 to 9 markers in the sample that they had, because it was so diluted with the girl's DNA. So we don't really know how many markers they have. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying?
So what I'm getting with Teddy is that like there's other things that people could have focused on just as much as this one other random thing I've heard of. So it's like it's very it's so much of a non-issue as the others.
well,
Also, it's, again, side.
I would just like to bring up the fact that recently Jack the Ripper through DNA analysis was identified. So there's advances every day in DNA testing. So
Jinx. All right. Frank brought that up. Tell us more about this. Enlighten us.
I had just caught the glimpse of an article on my phone, because I get the top news gets sent to me from some app that I use. And it was the first thing that I saw this morning. I said, what? So I looked at it again, and they said, yep, they solved it through DNA.
Yeah, it was one of his family members.
They did the genealogy.
Yep.
Doesn't that frustrate you?
And that's why I believe I'm not going to give a number on years, but sooner or later, they're going to come up with some type of test when it comes to not having enough markers to determine, get a profile together. They're going to come out with a test sooner or later for that.
I believe it.
DNA is more way of finding these killers, but if they need a machine to do more than has less markers in the DNA, they need to find a machine to do that.
And just because there were some that were unknown, I saw the defense spin that because it was the second day of whatever voir dire, the last time they could get some kind of a talking point out. They did not say this the first day of jury selection. They said it the second day, where they dropped the whole thing about the untested hair. Well, it was just like
Mhm.
one in the sleeve. It wasn't a whole clump.
Well, no,
And-
it was the one around her finger.
Yes, correct.
Well, wait a minute. They tested it because they know it's Kelsey's. Okay.
There you Well, they
Well,
Yeah,
they
of course.
didn't know that before that.
Yeah,
See,
but they knew it was mitochondrial. So like that's
Right.
when we say testing, you're saying they're taking the liberties here to say that testing, they didn't test it at all. No, there's different
Well-
degrees here of testing.
Well-
So they tested it mitochondrial and they knew it was familial and a female. So they didn't need to DNA test it.
Hold on here a second. When it comes to all that, it's a bunch of bullshit that they're trying to put out there. Well, she had Kelsey's hairs in her hand wrapped around her finger. First of all, how many of you on the panel have put on somebody else's sweatshirt or something like that, and there was a hair on
Frank,
there?
you're not telling me anything I don't know.
And
It's like
this is the stupidity that we have to deal with on a daily basis when it comes to this.
It's
case.
like they lose human hair comes off and
Yes.
it goes to your jacket, sweatshirt, anything like that. It doesn't
Listen,
matter.
I don't know if any of these people that believe in this have ever lived with a woman. I doubt it.
Oh yeah.
if
Married
you
twice,
have-
bro.
Listen, I don't know what it is, but underneath the bathroom door, there's a clump of hair that just builds up after a while, and it's almost like a door stopper. And you wonder how the hell, like I get it, you brush your hair falls out, but after a time when you get this big clump and you're like, how the hell does this happen? That's a lot of hair. And it hasn't been that
Cindy,
long.
I would like to point out that men have shorter hair, and the only reason that you notice these women when you live with them and their
They have
clumps
long
is
hair?
because they have longer hair. So
Thank
there's
you for pointing that
obviously
out.
a larger clump when they shed, comparatively speaking, to your tiny short hairs as a male, because you
I
keep
Hold
track.
on a second. Hey,
I
farmer,
appreciate you.
Hey, farmer, if you want to come up, the link's been highlighted, dude. If you want to come up, go ahead,
Jake,
guys.
was Jack the Ripper connected to Indiana in any way? That's the
No.
last.
No.
I think he was
No.
like from there. I swear somebody told me that. I was like,
Well,
he's
the
not
guy
from
they thought could have been him. They believe.
okay.
Oh Lord, of course
Yeah.
all the time.
No, he was over Gibbo's way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cross the pond.
They
Yes.
said that he allegedly moved to the United States and resided in Indiana and was buried here. And I was like, that ain't him.
Okay, you're right. There's
Everybody's always trying to say that Jack the Ripper was H.H. Holmes, by the way. So,
Yeah, exactly. That's the one guy I'm talking about, H.H. Holmes.
Yeah, but he was not in Indiana, isn't he?
No.
Well, let's take it a step further, so that way we don't sound like an echo chamber. And, we appeal to the broader audience, in air quotes. So, yeah, women's hair sheds a lot. And obviously,
Well, no,
If you're
just people in general shed a lot. Like, and the only reason that you notice more than the other is again because.
Farmer.
Hey, let's say everybody say hi to Farmer.
what's up, farmer?
Hey, you guys.
What's going on?
I want to make sure I'm not echoing.
No,
you
you're,
sound
you're
good.
fine.
All right, Teddy, continue whatever you were talking about.
They're still clear. Hi, Fiber.
So, obviously, we've got the hair. They understood it was mitochondrial. They knew it was probably a relative of one of the girls. They figured out it was Libby. Great. But people think that somebody from the family was involved. Whatever. Then you look at the evidence that the police had from the very beginning. And this is really where you have to consider what they're going to look at. They have a video with a male on a bridge. They also, we didn't see this, but they saw the whole video. We know that Abby had her hands in her pockets in that video on the bridge. It's not that hard to figure out. It was Kelsey's hoodie. You're probably going to have her hair. That not only was it her hoodie, but it was in her car. How much hair do you think gets in a female's car?
I know. Where's the magic in that?
Right.
Yeah.
But
Where's the surprise?
again, you can come up with whatever theory that you want. We're trying to come up with the most simplistic thing that makes sense, not something that you really have to reach for.
Hey, Farmer, you might want to back out and come back in because you're getting some feedback.
Oh no!
Am I really?
No,
Yeah.
you're fine, Farmer. I would just say that when you're not talking, you can hit the mic button, like mute yourself.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay.
Oh, he doesn't need to go out, but he just probably needed to.
Maybe it'll fix
I
it.
mean, Teddy, you make a good point on that because if you're not very smart and didn't pay attention in school, everybody sheds their outer skin once a day, and nobody even realizes it.
Yeah, but even all of that makes sense to most people. I mean, every female out there knows they shed. They can come up with a logical reason why Kelsey's hair would have been on the sweatshirt.
Right.
Abby had her hands in the sweatshirt. It ends up in between her fingers, whatever. The fact is, the reason that law enforcement didn't focus on that was because they had a video. This video that Libby took was the thing that they had to tie everything together. They had this guy that they knew forced them down a hill. They don't know anything in between or before. That's what they're focused on. Whether they told us in the beginning that this was the guy we think did it or we think he's involved, that's where the investigation is going to go. And this is from somebody that has no idea how investigations really develop. But give me a break. You want me to believe your theory, but you have to think about it from a perspective of somebody that's actually investigating this case. They don't care about a female hair. They care about this guy on the bridge.
Right.
So, of course, when they find this hair, they're going to look at it and go, oh, the mitochondrial DNA that's passed down from mother to child, not from mother to son, but mother to daughter and daughter to child, whatever.
Yeah.
We don't really look at that in the context of this investigation because we already have a video of a male suspect.
Because imagine if this was a murder scene in a house. Like, do they go to every corner and get every piece of hair? And they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We matched it to this somebody who lives here and is familial. That's not
right.
That proves nothing.
Right. If you can get me past that point where there's something more there that says, hey, she might be a viable suspect, then maybe I would say, hey, maybe the family had something to do with it. But you can't. And they haven't throughout all this time. So stop.
But what there something more that was there was what they brought to the table. And I guess like maybe the mystique or the mystery has been taken away because it seems like it has to be so much bigger. But like just in itself, like that video itself is haunting.
It is.
I mean, that enough is the thing of, nightmares. Like,
I mean, what haunted me was being able to actually hear him talk clearly. Because we've been hearing the old audio for all these years, and then when we heard the enhanced, I was like, "My God!"
Dude, the enhanced and the original. It was
the original. Bad. You couldn't really hear the girls talking at all.
I see. This is where I think it's good to talk about this because everybody wants to know about the video, and it bothers me because it's a 43-second video. There's not that much to talk about.
There is.
There is. But what I'm saying is when this video finally comes out and everybody sees it, there's going to be a lot of people that dissect it and try to twist things. But there's also going to be people that go, oh, it's exactly like you said. Mm-hmm. Everything that they told you in the beginning is what's in this video.
It is.
And
it's minuscule.
When I first heard it, and even after the second time, I only heard Libby's voice. I didn't hear Abby at all. I heard Libby, and then I heard Richard Allen say, guys, down the hill. And it was muted, and I can't explain that because I don't have an audio background to be able to talk about that in a way people might understand, but they'll hear it eventually. But when the enhance was played, that was the first time that I heard Abby's voice, and by the time I realized I heard a second female voice, I didn't even know what she said. Like, I can't even comment on anything that she said. All I know is I heard a different female voice. And they both sounded like they were 5 years old. That's all I needed to know.
Super interesting because it's like sometimes you have your dominant sense. And I just know that Frank Meister, Frank, when no one else could hear in the courtroom, you heard things crystal clear.
Yes.
Always. And I was like,
you had to have.
No,
I mean,
well,
your
you had
Dumbo
the
ears
hearing
out
of a
there.
hawk.
You had to have your Dumbo ears out there and eyes peeled to everything that was going on.
Well, we did, but none of us could hear what you heard.
If you didn't,
Frank,
you're going to get lost on what was going on.
Frank, let me ask you, where were you sitting when you saw this video? Were you sitting on the family side or the defense side?
I was sitting on the family side. I didn't see the video, but I heard the whole thing.
And see, that's the part that I'm actually really glad that it sucks that people that made it into the courtroom. I mean, I knew how it went because of the first day that we were there, and there was stuff on the screen that they were talking about that I had no reference to. So I got really frustrated because I couldn't figure out, yeah, you're talking about this, but I can't see it. So
that's what bugged me. But once I heard the actual enhanced,
right,
and compared it to the video that we saw before,
right,
it all made sense then.
Exactly.
Frank, I got a question for you, Frank. This is Derek.
Yeah, go ahead, Farmer.
I mean, because I know you were down there, and you know a lot of that, feet on the ground stuff. The witness for the prosecution, I'm still not going to say her name. I'll just use letters. C.
Yeah.
Did she originally say that she was going 35 around that 2-lane curb and then amend that to around 60 as she didn't want to get a ticket when she first told them that at the trial, or is that just a rumor?
She never mentioned anything about that at the trial when I was there, because she said that when she drove by him, she got real smart alecky with the defense team. She said it's not like
this is a good discussion.
She flat out blurted out and said, "What did you expect me to do? Stick a damn ruler out the window to see how far away he was from me?"
The problem is it's only a 1-lane road out there. That's it.
She got real sassy.
Yeah, Derek, do you have more questions about Sarah Carbaugh? Because I did see that.
I think she did mention something about going.
I knew she
faster or something like that, and she didn't want to get in trouble. I think. No, I don't know.
She was talking
if it is that 30 miles an hour is significant, in my opinion.
It is. That's a very narrow road, and I would agree with you. Like that, I can't imagine going down that road at a fast rate of speed because it's narrow and it's got some curves to it, especially after you pass the Mears entrance. Like it's got some curves to it. But
she did say that she normally took that route because she used to go to the trails all the time.
Right. I agree with that. But I think with that specific road being what it is, it's not a normal road that you would go down. And I think if you were going really fast, I don't know. I'm a cautious person. I would probably get weirded out going that fast, especially if I knew the road. Knowing that turn was coming up, you go past the cemetery, past the Mears.
There's a fork just past Ron Lowen's place. It's a fork in the road. So
right or left.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're probably dealing with a higher pedestrian traffic for that area, being that the trails are right there.
No,
not
at all.
Oh, not hardly.
All right.
Maybe once in a while you see.
I stand corrected.
I like this line of questioning because I actually saw Sarah Carbaugh.
From all the times that I've been out there, and especially being right there, especially during the walks, I would take my camera and I would do a live and go down to where the old CPS building is. There's never any traffic. Never.
It's once in a while some car go on there.
Yeah, and it was even, let's say you're coming out of town and you're even trying to find the regular High Bridge parking lot. It's a lot of the people have told me, Google the Marathon gas station. And then I went to there and it's like, then I can find it in reverse because it's easier to go to the Marathon gas station and then come back and make a left-hand turn. Otherwise, it's really hard to find. But sorry. Okay. I'd like to talk more about if you have any more questions about Sarah Carbaugh, because she did not say anything about speeding, but she did say that when she slowed down to cross him, and so he was like, how far away were you from her? And she's like, well, I didn't hold a measurement stick out there, but she was essentially saying that she was close within maybe 3 feet.
Yeah,
And
she
and
did
she
say
amended that too, because when they were talking to her, she said, you know, it's a narrow road. I didn't want to hit this guy. He was walking on the north side of the road. That's in the PCA.
that.
And she said, I didn't want to hit him. And when she said, like, Baldwin was asking her, how far away were you from him? And she said, 5 feet. And then she goes, no, you know what? I was like 3 feet from him. I was close to him. And because I slowed down because I didn't want to hit him, I saw him for some time. Obviously, we think that she saw him for this extended period, but imagine seeing somebody on the road and you're trying to go around them to pass them and not hit them. It's not really that long, but it's long enough for you to notice, like, hey, it's just like every other witness. They saw something about this guy that was weird. And she specifically said the blood on the lower part of his pants. And she knew it was
Right.
blood because he had lighter colored blue jeans on and the blood looked fresh. She specifically said fresh, which stuck out to me.
Wow.
Yep. And he even tried to confuse her about his jacket.
Yep.
Asking him if she could see blood on the jacket, and she was like, it was more or less a mixture of mud and blood, from what she described it as.
Okay, think how confusing this all could be, because one of the things I've heard, so I don't, you guys know way more of the background than I do. I just know that I saw Sarah Carbaugh.
You know a lot. Come on, Laura.
Okay, well, but I haven't read all the stuff. So I just know that when she said before, he was like, he looked like he was muddy and he looked like he'd been in a fight. Okay, so to me, that insinuates he had mud on him and he didn't look like he just fell or tripped into a creek or whatever. It looked like, what is the one other thing that would insinuate that you look like you've been into a fight?
Tell us.
Blood.
I mean, that's a great question. I mean, yeah, what would indicate a fight versus
right?
Did I fall down a hill and just crack my head open?
I would say if she saw something on
Blood.
his face,
Well,
there's muddy. There's muddy and disheveled, like you look like a homeless person. But what also, right? She didn't say he looked like he. That's a good point. Like, yeah, she didn't look like he fell off the bridge, right? Because then you're going to be bloody. But so he's muddy and looked like he was in a fight. So to me, I guess in my brain, I automatically think that's muddy and bloody.
The things that stuck out to me, because when I went into this, I was thinking about all the things that the defense had come out with in their filings, and I wanted to know if that was the actual truth or if they were lying, because you never know. With defense attorneys, their job is to get their client off, so they might twist the truth. That's what you expect. So I remember the filing that they came out with where they said that she had lied, and she said that the jacket was tan. Does anybody remember that? Or is it just me?
I don't.
So this was closer to trial, and they were talking about Sarah Carbaugh and her testimony, and they said that she had never said bloody. And they said,
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, and she said that the jacket was actually tan and not blue. And once they went through the testimony with her and Baldwin cross-examined her, he tried to throw the transcripts at her and point out the fact that, there was an hour of her taped interviews from the beginning that were lost. And he did this thing where as soon as she said, yeah, I got to go over my taped interviews a bunch of times, but there was an hour that was lost. And he turned to the jury and went, oh, an hour of interview that was lost? Folks, this plagues this case. Lost interviews, like it was this big fact, like it's going to solve this case. And we all just hung there waiting for him to finish. And he kind of went back to her and started asking her more questions. We're like, okay, is there anything more that you're going to say? Like, no. So he goes on and he talks about his tan jacket. And I thought, looking at the video, his hoodie or whatever it is underneath, it looks brown, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought might have gotten confused. And she said no. He was caked from head to toe in mud. So he could have
Right.
had a blue jacket on, but I saw so much mud, and I didn't know this. I didn't know he was caked all the way up with mud.
I think
And
he
she
got
goes,
that from the around Logan's bank.
well, who the hell knows where he did this? But you can assume if they went across the creek and something happened and one of the girls tried to run, whatever, we don't know. But you can assume, given the area that they were in, that something happened and he got mud on him. Like it's not a stretch the imagination to think like, okay. So I gave it to her, I believed it. I'm like, yeah, this girl went past the guy for 30 seconds, whatever she said. Like she made a big deal out of it because she's like me. All the stuff that they point out that they try to make this big fact, it's like, dude, I saw the guy for 30 seconds as I was driving down a road. Something stuck out to me. I noticed him. And then I ended up telling you, yeah, it was 3 weeks later. Okay, but I still saw this. I'm giving you these details and you're twisting it.
And she even admitted that when she finally saw the picture of him on TV, that she said that that's the guy I saw on that road.
I think that's a valid point. I mean, everyone's giving her a nonstop shit for, saying that she just didn't even know what she was talking about, and she. But I mean, if you're from someplace and you're used to driving that road, it'd be difficult for us to do it. But is it so difficult for a local to take a curb that they've been taking for 30, whatever, however old she was? I don't really know, years, So I think that's a valid point. Yeah.
And like that's the stuff that she said. And to me, I heard Sarah Carbaugh and I equated her with Betsy Blair. Those were the two, like not the juvenile witnesses, but
Right.
those two people. I really thought Sarah Carbaugh was like the same age as Betsy Blair. So I was expecting this older woman to come up. This 35-year-old blonde girl came up and I was like, oh, what's up, boo? Like
How old's BB?
She's in her 60s.
Yeah. She doesn't look I don't know. I get the age wrong all the time, but when I saw her, she didn't seem that old. We saw a couple older witnesses. She didn't seem that old to me, but
she carried her age well.
She did. And I've said this before, she didn't seem like she wanted to be there, but it wasn't like Sarah Carbaugh said in trial. She's like, I hate all the murder stuff. I don't watch true crime documentaries.
I don't even want to be here. She even said she didn't even want to be there.
Yeah. And to me, and it's just my opinion, it was genuine. I understood that.
It's just like when she told Baldwin when he wanted to go over her transcript, she said, "You mean we're going to do this again?"
Oh man, I've loved it. I was freaking out in my seat. I was going nuts. I go, what did she just say? Really?
She is sassy as hell through the trial.
She goes, oh, we're doing this again? Really? Yeah. And she did it really connivingly because you think the jury doesn't know this, but we all know this. This girl has been through hell since she was in her mid-20s.
Yeah.
And for all this time, she's been deposed. She's been brought through the ringer because she's an important witness. So it was funny to me when I heard the one juror talk about her experience. Yeah, go for it, Frank. So the juror that was interviewed by Murder Sheet, she was saying how Sarah Carbaugh they didn't even look at her as credible. And I understood it because when I left court that day, I go, that was a show for me. I enjoyed it. And I thought she spoke for the town of Delphi when she gave her testimony. But I would understand if people looked at her like she was just this show pony because she pushed back a lot. And after a couple of the things that the defense put out there that you could go back and reference their motions and the things that they said before we were in trial and seeing the photographs and hearing all this stuff, it really pissed me off in a bad way because you're talking about these girls that their experience that they had out there in those woods, we're never going to know. But these guys put their narrative out there based off of the photographs and the evidence that they were given. and they were blown out of the water on day one, even when I couldn't see
I
anything.
mean, aren't you supposed to be the contrarian? You sound like you're making the most sense I've ever heard tonight. I mean, it's amazing. You're making perfect points.
Well, if you could go out and talk to everybody else that has a contrarian view, please. I'm not trying to lie to people. I have no stake.
No,
in the
I mean,
game.
no, I'm absolutely believing everything you're saying. You were there around that place, and it's that kind of legitimacy that a lot of us, and I'll put myself in that category, missed during that trial. So now you're left at the end of it thinking, well, who's lying? Who's telling the truth? Whereas you guys, Frank, Randy, your feet are right there on the ground.
Yeah.
You can very well judge for yourself who's fucking lying and not. And I'll take your guys' word for it.
Yeah,
Well,
it was blatantly obvious. You could tell from all the witnesses that testified who was lying and who was telling the truth.
This is why the people wanted cameras in the courtroom so they all can see what's they're showing in the courtroom.
And I agree with that, because you know what? It aggravates me to go there. That it was one of the most important experiences of my life to be there.
Mine too.
Seriously, it wasn't going to do anything for me. I was happy. Honestly, sitting out there in the line every night, I miss it now. Like, I went back to my normal life, and I miss that because we all adapted to it. And
we had a lot of camaraderie too.
Yeah.
A lot of us did.
Even the people that weren't on the same side, it was good. And I loved it, and I miss it. And going into the courtroom and seeing that, you knew how important it was to be there. But the fact of the matter is, no matter who you listen to, whether it's us, whether it's the people on the other side, that I think a lot of what they say, what pisses me off is when they blatantly lie about what was said,
right,
or what was told. That fucking pisses me off in the worst way. I can't get over it. I would not say anything if it wasn't for the people that get out there and twist it. Even from the very beginning, when I didn't have the time to go out there. It's aggravating.
Laura's
but
back.
Then
hey, Laura.
after all of this stuff, don't listen to any single one of us and take it for gospel. Don't do it. Because I guarantee you, when all these exhibits come out, when the video comes out and certain pictures come out, none of us are going to be able to give you a photographic memory of what was done. There's going to be mistakes. But listen to what people are saying and the overall view of it, and then look at what the defense has put out there, because they were the only ones that were talking. So look at what they put out there.
Yeah, they put a lot of stuff out there they shouldn't put out.
Right. And you and I can look at this as what they twisted, and I'll call them whatever the hell I want to call them, because fuck them. I don't care.
See, that's the type of person. I'm the same way.
But will they put it out there?
I hope they do.
I feel like if there's shit that's being twisted, that we have actual witnessed ourselves in the courtroom and things like that, it really pisses me off, because if you weren't there, don't try to twist it if you don't know exactly what was seen or what was said. And right. I know they're getting it from like the other ones that were in there. They were against the prosecution, the attorneys especially, because they're very good at manipulating people like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's the part that really, I would say, over everything, are the people that sat in the courtroom that weren't the defense attorneys, they weren't the prosecution, they were nobody involved with the case. There are 3 specific people that I know were in there that I've gone back as I've come home and have listened to everybody talking about what they experienced. And even the really horrific details that we saw with our own eyes. And they sat there that night and lied to your face.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. And I won't stand for it. I would not say anything else about this case. Is over. Yeah. The person that did this is in prison. I hope he rots there. I hope they put him in Gen Pop. And there's other things that I would love to say, but I'm not going to say them. But then you have these people. I have to give Kevin from the Murder Sheet. I've talked a lot of shit about the guy over the years, but I have to say they're grifters. They really are.
Well, I don't
And
know if they're grifters, but here's what. Okay, so
No,
the
they're
days,
grifters.
Kenny, the days that I couldn't get in,
Mhm.
and let's say that I had I'd been in with them the 3-day trials and all the other like the whatever the hearings before yada yada where Frank was there. When I could not get in my gut, I was like, I want to listen because I would go listen to them because I'm like, that is genuinely every night when I would go home and listen to like, what did I hear? The murder sheet definitely gave the best recount of it.
They did.
I did not like them before, to be honest. So
Mhm.
so I
agree.
really don't. I don't know, and they don't necessarily love me. You know, we weren't necessarily buddies.
You know, honestly,
Nobody loves anybody else.
I learned a lot from Anya. Honestly,
Gibbo, get fucked. Sorry.
Gibbo would give a. Well, but the point.
I've learned a lot from Anya and Kevin, honestly, but I've learned a lot more from Anya because we usually sat right next to each other through all the hearings and everything. And I noticed that she would note after notes after notes, and that's why I picked up on taking notes like you would believe through this whole mess.
You know why
Frank, can you put Lala's comment up? I think it's a good a question or comment that Lala made, and valid.
All right, give me a second. I gotta find her.
I want to say this about Anya because it's my favorite thing that she did the whole time. Before they got line sitters and she was out there, exhausted, the stuff that she would say in line, like hanging over a lawn chair, it was the best. It was the best. I said that to her during sentencing. Like I came up to her and I was like, just so you know, I really miss your overtired antics. Like that was the greatest shit of all time.
Who is this again?
Anya.
Yeah.
Yeah. I made fun of her about
that. This whole situation is that all of us, like me, you, Laura, Marv, the murder sheet, we all stuck together.
Yeah.
At different times too. And so like you guys were all in there at different times than I was. And but man, you guys honestly, the murder sheet was there every day, and the lack of sleep that they got, and they literally were. I was like, they would go to the library or whatever and record. And so, all I can say is that I watched Andrea Burkhart, saw her in line. You know what? I got to know Lawyer Lee. I liked her. I really loved Lauren Hidden True Crime. She really
her and her accent
out there.
I love her too.
So when days that I could not be in there, okay, I would go and I was like, oh my gosh, I missed it. What am I going to listen to? I would go to Murder Sheet because I know that would be the actual legit thing that happened based on history of like, what did I see today from myself? And then what was reported tonight. So, I mean, Andrea Burkhart, to be honest, I mean, like, it was just kind of sad because it was, there was a certain night where she got paid line sitters.
Oh my God.
And I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? I will say this. When I first got to trial, I didn't know anybody. Like, I didn't know Lauren Hidden True Crime. I had never heard of her. And she had all these people with her, and I thought it was really weird. Like, the days that she had her artist there, like, I was there sitting next to her artist on the day of the autopsy photos, and I was extremely emotional, and I got really upset by the chick that was sitting next to me that was drawing what was on the screen. Like, I thought that was really gross, but this was before I knew what she was about and what she was doing. And to be honest with you, she is the only person out there that has accurate representations that are, for lack of a better term, classy for you to understand what we saw. So
yeah, and then ridiculous sketches because I knew someone would do it better. But also, Lala, this is exactly right.
Well, no, wait.
Sorry, Teddy, look at Lala's comment right there.
Well, I will in just 1 second. I'll get to Lala's comment for sure. But I want to say the people that had line sitters, I thought that was really weird too at first. And then I realized, like, I would get there at like 10 o'clock at night after not getting sleep and sit there all night and then go into trial. And when I would see the people with line sitters, I thought it was really disingenuous and weird. But then I realized I wasn't the person, like, I didn't have the audience. I wasn't the person that people were coming to for the information. And towards the end of the trial, I would have paid for those people to have line sitters so they could get sleep.
We would have.
Right. And on my way home, like I came back to Indiana twice during trial. And on my way home, I would listen to all the episodes that Murder Sheet did of the days that I was in the courtroom. And to be honest with you, even with their bias, because I have a bias and so is everybody else that was in there, that's the most accurate representation that you're going to get of what was said and what was talked about, rather than going to, Fox 59 or other news outlets.
The news outlets. They were, boy.
Yeah.
Frank, they were, but the thing is, the way that the news outlets are set up, even if they have a 10-minute segment, a 10-minute segment is huge. It's huge. Like, they don't usually get that amount of time. I would see all of those reporters in there writing all these notes, and it's like they don't get the amount of time that people like Murder Sheet get to sit there and talk to you in a normal way that people understand. They only have that short period of time to tell you everything that happened in that day. It's not necessarily on them. I know that a lot of the reporters don't report correctly,
right,
and they have a spin. Right. But at the end of the day, even if you were the best reporter you could be, you don't have the platform to be able to come out and say, this is everything that was said that we wrote down. I know that all of those guys have notes that they could speak from. They just don't have the time to do it on regular cable television.
I mean, or they go get their hit piece and they're paid to be there and they've got to go deliver. So they've got I was feeding back to Deb's True Crime Notebook, but she knows the case very well. So when I would be like, Deb, you know this way more than me, but I would say the two new things that I heard were this, and this. And those were the exact things that the mainstream media covered, because it was who wanted a soundbite, the defense. So it was exactly that. It was this magic hair, and that we're going to go really hard after the police. Those two things, and that's what the media covered. So, So they haven't. Where the Murder Sheet did not cover that, because they've been in this long enough to know, like, those weren't really two new things. So, like, I would know I was in the hallway with Rafael Sanchez, and not that I'm important, but like they were talking about, like,
he's
we
not
kind of
important
laughed
either.
about that, like, of
Trust me.
We laughed about the new thing, and then it was like, who's going to report on it? I don't think Rafael did, but like,
he's a fraud. That's my opinion of him.
Well, he was not as bad as another one, but
who's that?
Well, Rafael Sanchez.
He was in the hallway we were talking about, like, okay, we all noticed, like, this is a new thing, but
I can't say nothing about Rafael. Sorry, guys.
No,
that's fine. That's fine. We all have different opinions.
I'm fine with Rafael.
There's a reason, and there's a reason.
No, that's cool.
No, honestly, well,
Frank, I hate you now. You don't have the same opinion that I do.
Yeah, well, I can't, because I work with these people behind the scenes, man.
Well,
what a name drop.
He was understanding. I don't think he reported falsely on it. He was basically like, I think it was me and Susan and Rafael, and we were talking, like, we had talked about, like, that this was, did you hear this? Yeah, we kind of rolled our eyes, like, that's gonna be the news thing. And then we kind of left thinking nothing of it, and that was all that was talked about that entire weekend.
Yep.
But I will say Russ McQuaid, I don't like him.
He was totally defense from what I read and heard from him.
Here's what I'll say, and I'll say the same thing about Rafael Sanchez, because I don't really know the guy. I've just had my certain experiences with him in that short period of time that I was there. There were things that he did that I didn't like, but I'll say that he's been on this case from the beginning, and he's given the family a voice, and I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But I have my personal experiences, whatever. It doesn't matter what I think. Russ McQuaid, I understand where all of you are coming from, because I have some of the same experiences with him that I had with Rafael Sanchez. But then I've seen him interact with other people. You know, the days that certain media people did not have media passes and they would sit in line with us, I didn't have, these great experiences with him. But I've heard from other people, and I've witnessed him with other people, and I go, he's an old bird. Like, he's been on this stuff from the beginning, and he's been on a lot of cases from the beginning. I give those people the benefit of the doubt. I know their industry and I know what they're about. So I will talk shit, but it's not the end of the line. It's not an end all be all for me. So that is what it is. So Frank, can you put up Lola's comment, because I know
I gotta go back to it.
Sorry, I know Farmer. I feel bad. I didn't get to
I don't
that.
know. I mean, don't feel bad for me. It was my comment.
No. But you put it up there, and it deserves to be recognized for sure.
Well, I think it was good. I mean, I can recall what it was. I mean, she was basically asking, hey, was there any biological proof they were in the creek at the trial? I brought that up months ago. I think it was still on Sleuth Show. I said, that is something they've always stuck with, it. They were taken across the creek. And I just assume that, scientifically speaking, there would be organisms within that clothing that would say, hey, paramecium, whatever microscopic organisms would be stuck in there,
From my understanding, Libby's jeans, which Abby had on when they found her, were damp from she had been in the creek.
Yeah.
And also, what I would say is, we know that the girls were on the bridge. We know from photographs. We know from video. We know that there was a guy on the bridge. Now, you can stop there and say that they were taken someplace else and brought to the opposite side of the creek. But if they weren't taken across the creek, they would have had to been driven and brought over there by somebody else. And you have to think about
it adds so many levels.
Right. Now, there are a lot of people out there that say that's exactly what happened. But use your brain, and I could be wrong. You can call me an idiot. But use your brain and go, is it more reasonable for the person that took them off that bridge to bring them across the sandbar to the creek, the other side, the north side? Or is it more reasonable for somebody with a vehicle that knew that they were going to be there at that exact time, took them away for whatever reason there was, and then brought them back at some point, so that way they were found the next day at noon, or whenever the exact time was?
12:15.
Right. So what to you makes sense, given all the information that you know to be fact?
That's a lot of work to do that.
It is, but it's really not, though. It is if you want to reach.
Like Farmer said, you would have to have so many hands in that pot to get that accomplished.
Right. And given the area, it would be one thing if it was easy to get them there. It would be another thing if there weren't people out there looking for them. But if you were the killer, if you want to say it was the Odinists, if you want to say it's Ron Logan, tell me, what is the reason for those two groups of people to take them away and then bring them? You know that they were killed there. I don't care what anyone says. Those girls were killed right there.
Yeah.
So you have to give me a reason why they were taken away and why they were brought back and then killed in the way that they were killed, based off of Cicero's testimony right there. If you can't do that, get fucked.
Well, see, the one problem is they got Brad Redwood coming on the road. He's going home from that house. So where that house is, they should have seen another car before Brad Redwood got there.
How come?
How come?
Yeah.
If Rich Allen had somebody come down that road to pick those two girls up, they would have been on camera. And plus, that lady who owns that gate would also seen another car.
Miss Liebert?
Yeah.
Randy, are you saying based off of the time frame that the state gave?
Yeah.
Well, therein lies my problem. So I've tried to explain this to other people, and again, don't listen to me if you don't want to. we're going off of the evidence that we have, and we're going off of what Richard Allen confessed to. But there's a huge issue there. There's a lot of things that Richard Allen confessed to that we're using as fact that makes sense. I believe that Richard Allen is the guy. But I don't believe that everything that he said to his psychiatrist in his weak moments was the exact truth.
Well, I agree because I believe there's more.
Thanks, Deb.
There's way more confessions. I mean, up to 61. Wait, where did Farmer go?
I probably went back in the chat or something.
There were 61 that were specific to the crime. And Laura, I completely agree with you. I was expecting at trial to hear a lot more.
Yeah.
What I heard from his own voice in his calls and in his interviews, I heard nothing specific of the crime. It was, I did it. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. Why would I tell you I did it if I didn't?
Yeah.
The only stuff that I heard that was specific was the wallet testimony, where he said he saw a van, and I thought in trial that he said a man, and I'm like, who the hell is this man? Like, where is this guy? Like, they didn't bring him up. Like, and people are like, no, they said van, and I'm like, oh, I'm really tired. Okay, but
he wouldn't be able to saw Brad Weber's van where he was standing at.
You don't think so?
I don't think so,
dude. Listen, see, this is the part that I gotta tell you, and I have to be completely honest with you. The only reason I know this is because we went up to the bridge, to the railing of the new part of the bridge, and we went to the crime scene. When we went to the bridge, as soon as I got up to the railing, I heard a vehicle, and I saw a silver pickup truck going down Brad Weber's access road. He was past where you would go under the bridge. It was like he was leaving the house and he was going towards the main road.
Frankmeister, I send you a video of mine of what the hills look like. In your messenger.
Randy, I think I agree. I think what I'm getting at is that or what we're both getting at is that, like, I think that he has confessed a bunch of other times and been way more specific, but the only one they could bring into trial was that one. So as serial killers confess, sometimes they're like Israel Keys is like, well, some people are like, I'll confess to this, but I won't confess to the rape. So I think maybe that was the one they could bring in to court, was the Dr. Walla one. But I think they have way more intense and more specific.
My question would be is, what would cause that confession if it was that much more specific? What in your opinion? I'm not like fighting against you at all. Like, I don't know.
Well,
what in your opinion would make that more specific in court?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, but I'll also say that. But also, like, let's say they didn't bring in like the ace trump, king, queen, trump card or whatever. I was convinced enough by just hearing how how set he was when he was talking to his wife and his mother. He was not. It wasn't just like, oh, I think I did it. No, it was.
Well, he did say that.
He did.
In a few calls, he did say, I think I did it, but I get you. Go ahead.
But right. But as I heard it, when people told it from court and they're like, I think I did it, and they're reading the transcripts wrong. Like, I was like, I'm not convinced. And then I think it was like one of the closing days. I didn't hear all of them. I just heard two recordings, and I'm like, wow, he's solidified.
But listen, guys, we've been at it about 2 hours, going on 10 minutes, a couple more minutes. We're going to get out of here, but there is something I do need to address real quick. And a dear friend of mine got in contact with me today and asked me to mention this. The Patty family is not making any money off of this case. Any money that's been donated goes to the Abby Libby Foundation. The way it works, if they need money for the ballparks, for Riley Park or whatever,
Abby's Angels,
they've got to go through the board first. to request the money. And I have spoken to an individual who is on that board, and he's usually in my chat, but he's not tonight. But that's the way it works. They're not getting paid directly any type of money.
We're not getting money either from this.
No, none of us are getting any money from this.
I'm making all of it. That's why I'm going to work tomorrow.
But I do want to thank Randy, Miss Laura, Teddy, Farmer, Jinx came in. I want to thank my mods for hanging out. You guys were great tonight. To everybody that has showed up to hang out for a little bit to have this discussion, I appreciate y'all coming and hanging out. I'll probably be doing more lives here soon, and I'd like to have Teddy come back on because he's very intelligent and he was there, and me and him think alike. So until next time, guys, I appreciate y'all hanging out. Love you. You know what time it is. Good night, guys. Peace out.
Everyone. Bye.
Love, guys. Good night.
Bye.